Hey, so this is the best films of 2019. Yeah, so as always, I've stopped doing a top 10 list for a few years now. So it's just a bunch of movies. I just kind of separate into their own little categories of similarity or whatever not. And here we go. Alright, so first category is suspense. I guess that's what we'll call it. We've got The Irishman, Uncut Gems, El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie, 1917, and Knives Out. The Irishman, I really enjoyed it. Of course, there's a joke about, it being 3 hours long or whatever not. There's so much more to it than just like a long-ass movie. You get De Niro, you get Pacino, you get Joe Pesci, out of retirement doing this movie. You got Scorsese doing what Scorsese does. So, it's you got that going on. With Uncut Gems, you have a story where, well, first of all, you have a film where Adam Sandler didn't write it. So you're like, hey, this is gonna be good. Story about, a guy who gets this big old uncut gems, and then from there on, a lot of shit happens, Good, bad, mostly bad, and it all kind of culminates into some crazy shit. It just, talk about the escalation of it. But yeah, definitely worth a watch. It's from the same guys who did Good Time. Good Times is, I keep forgetting the title, with Robert Pattinson, so it's going to be like pretty far out and very interesting, and again, the escalation of shit, just like, alright, here we go. That's what's happening. So with El Camino, the Breaking Bad story, as I've said in my review, it's a continuation of the Breaking Bad story right after the series ended. And unlike most things that kind of are like a new movie thing after something ended, this didn't really need to get made at the same time. They didn't shoehorn things that didn't feel like it didn't fit in there. It didn't divert the story where, in your mind, what you think canon is. No matter what, it ended well. You got to see a cast of, that you haven't seen in forever come back. You got to, enjoy everyone once more kind of thing. Like a very, safe but also scary reunion of every cast member that you know and love. With 1917, most people keep talking about the style of having it being one continuous shot. Now, past the amazing, work of it being one continuous shot, and of course Roger Deakins, beautiful cinematography, the story itself is outside of a war story. Again, on the surface, 1917, you're looking at World War I, but you're also looking at, really, these two guys going through the battlefield, going through the battlefields, and trying to warn, another, group. And during all that, you get to see, how they interact with one another, how much, really, no one wants to be there, and really just how scary war is. As much as most of the time with war films, you're watching it and you're like, yeah, fight, we're the good guys, whoever side that they want you to be on. But here, it's like, you got these two guys and they're like, no, fuck this shit, And the last on this suspense list is Knives Out. As I said in my review, it's very much, like a classic whodunit kind of thing. It definitely worked with / against the audience, but not in a bad way. It made you as the audience feel like, oh, I'm smarter than this film. I already know who did it, or oh, I'm ahead of you. Then the movie kind of pulls you back a little and is like, no, got you here, got you there. And from then on, you're just like, all right, I don't know, man. I don't know who did do it, And you got this large ensemble cast of very well-known actors, and they all are utilized well. No one's just kind of there. No one's just like, oh yeah, someone's there for that 6-minute cameo kind of shit. Everyone was there. They all did a great job. Chris Evans is in amazing sweaters, so that's all I gotta say. My next category is comedy. And we have Booksmart and Jojo Rabbit. With Booksmart, I really enjoy this current kind of coming of age teen films that have been coming out. Granted, yes, they are still very white, but they're straying from that, formula of teen films where it's always like, there's two friends and they're really good besties, but somehow in this film you're watching them and even though they're both, let's say, outcasts or losers, somehow when they go to a big party, one of them is somehow just a shining star out of nowhere, and the other one is just like, I'm shot and I'm gonna drink this spiked punch and just sleep with whomever, kind of thing. Whereas this, it's like, you've got these two girls who are book smart, and they're like, hey, we just feel like we kind of wasted high school by just being smart and we hadn't partied or anything. Shit, we're going to college soon. How are we going to not know how to party? It's like, well, you're going to figure that out in college because it's college. But anyway, so they go for a last hurrah before graduation, and they kind of learn a lot about each other, themselves, and then just, like about everyone in society. But really, but yeah, like this is one of the really good ones. It's also because it's like written and directed by a woman. It's done by Olivia Wilde. So it's like there's a certain perspective on there that normally, like, again, in these teen films, it's written by a bunch of dudes, and they're just like, yeah, teenage girls wear crop tops and mini skirts and heels because that's every high school allows that dress code. With Jojo Rabbit, I already knew I was gonna enjoy this, mainly because it's Taika Waititi, and anything Taika Waititi puts out, I'm just like, yep, I got your back, bro. The fact that this is like satirical World War II, like Taika's playing, imaginary friend Hitler, like, for God's sakes. But the great thing about this movie is that the balance it has with going from like over the top kind of like going from over the top satirical shit on Nazis, like, yeah, we know they're fucking assholes and they're crazy, but like how hilarious they made them, like in a Monty Python way, to then at times just how serious the movie gets, obviously because it's World War II, and really, if you think about it, nothing during this shit is to joke about or to laugh about, but he was able to like make it humorous and also, reel you back in with the seriousness at the same time. And with the young actor, he did very well, playing off of imaginary Hitler and then, like, his surroundings and all that stuff. So, yeah, he did a really good job of kind of, like, having that Monty Python goofiness, but then also reeling in the seriousness, which, if you know Taika Waititi's work, he's really good at doing that, especially when he has his main character as like a child. He's very good at like having the goofy child stuff in there, but also being like, all right, there's some shit here, Next category is comic book movies. It's kind of obvious. It's two of them. I have Endgame and Joker. Now with Endgame, we're looking at obviously a culmination of a decade of films, and we've been following these characters and this universe for so long. And with this being the final, film of this, series, they did a very good job on, like, kind of closing all the storyline. Again, this movie was also 3 hours long, but the way that they were able to put so much story in, you didn't feel like it was a long film. The way that they were able to, as always what Marvel does, do the comedy, they do the seriousness, they made you feel, oh my god, the feels. Oh, Jesus Christ. The amount of the like how much the audience was just with it the entire time. We cheered at the crazy moments, we all cried at the really sad moments, we laughed at the funny moments, just how all of us who really enjoyed the series of film, and then again culminating to the end of it, how we all just, like, it was a very good end to all of it. And then we have Joker, which was kind of like a surprise comic book film because no one really asked for a Joker film, and also something like the Joker, the character, to make an origin story, like as a huge Batman fan, I like that the Joker's origin is kind of like up in the air. Like, this guy just appeared one day and he is what it is. And there've been a few, like, within the comics and sometimes the animated series or whatever not, they'll try to have like a little, like origin here and there, and that's fine. And then to do like a full-length movie, to be honest, I was very apprehensive on it. I definitely wanted to see it mainly just, for Joaquin Phoenix, because I know he's a good actor. Other than that, I was like, ooh. But this movie, like, one, it kind of it grounds the character. At the same time, it also makes it extremely, like, fantastical of a character, of course, because it's the Joker. So we have, like Arthur, the character who is the Joker. He is a real person who has issues and problems and stuff that really needs help, but let's cut the funding. But then, of course, literally all the crazy stuff that kind of happens afterwards, you realize that is very much the Joker. It's fantastical. It's over the top, like even how the movie, like, culminates to the end of the craziness, because he is the Joker and all the shit he does, you can kind of see, like, it kind of does make sense, like, this was just a regular dude, and then, like, oh shit, that happened. Like, it was very, like, it wasn't necessary, but it was very interesting, just how, they decided to make this character. Yes, granted, it was very Scorsese style in the whole taxi driver. I almost said taxi cab driver. Jesus Christ. Wow, that's one of your favorite movies. You don't even know the title of it. And, like, King of Comedy, that kind of shit, because you do have De Niro in the film. Which is funny, because this film, you can obviously tell it's a huge Scorsese homage. And, Scorsese had come out and he was like, I don't like these comic book films. They're not films, da-da-da. Which is funny, because then this comes out, and it's like, hey, bro, homage. And it's like, oh, God. Well, all right. All right, next category is horror. I have Us, The Lighthouse, Midsummer, and Doctor Sleep. Now, with Us, Jordan Peele, I hope he keeps making films, like, forever. Because, my God, he has finally put back, like, hope back in the horror genre, because for the longest time, we all know, horror films have not been good. They've been predictable, they've been, like, nothing but jump scares. It's just been kind of like, alright. Like, a lot of them I don't even see in the theater. Like, I'll watch it, I'll rent it or something, or the only reason, like, or I don't even bother with it, or the only reason why I'll watch it is because someone mentioned how bad it was, or, like, this one's, like, pretty good, and I was like, I don't trust you, and then I watch it, and I'm like, yeah, this wasn't that good, what's wrong with you people? But anyway, so with Us, the fact that, it's a horror film, it's, like, home invasion, like, this kind of Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of feel, it's definitely got a lot of Kubrick reference to it. Jordan Peele knows his stuff very well. In fact, it's like the main family is black, and, they're not just, like, the incidental characters, as a lot of horror films have been. Like, oh, hey, here we are. Oh, no. Okay. Well, that's it, So there's a lot more to it. There's this whole lore to, this movie, and there's all, and just like with Get Out, he has so many subtle nuances with it, where he allows the audience to, one, just watch the film as is, and two, afterwards have multiple discussions about it, about why and how and whom to ha. I haven't watched it yet with audio commentary, but usually, like, when I watch Get Out with audio commentary, again, anything you have previously spoken about, with, like, discuss with your friends, Jordan Peele, not that he clears it up, but he kind of gives, obviously, his perspective on, why he did X and Y on it. So, yeah, Us is very good. It was, like, I know a lot of people didn't like it, because I guess they either expected another Get Out, or they didn't realize that some movies you have to think, but yeah. Next is The Lighthouse, and this was an interesting movie, because you're looking at two dudes. You're looking at Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. It's filmed in black and white. It's filmed in that very squared aspect ratio, I think actually on film. And there are two dudes who just watch a lighthouse, and then, like, craziness ensues, But it's not like, oh my God, like, it's not too far-fetched, but at the same time, it's like, alright, it's weird stuff. A lot of it is mental, and of course this is done by the guy who did The Witch, so you're like, oh, okay, I get it. It's one of those things where you're like, I don't, like, well, okay, it's kind of weird. It's kind of, oh, okay, it's like that. I definitely enjoyed it. Pattinson's, like, performance was really good. Of course, Willem Dafoe is Willem Dafoe, so we know how he does. yeah, I really enjoyed it. Oh man, that was the best $4.99 rental ever. Next is Midsummer, and oh my god, Midsummer, my god, I was the only one in the theater when I saw that. And this is done by the guy who did Hereditary. And again, just like how with the dude who did The Witch, you kind of see like their style, their way of storytelling and all that shit. And as I've said in my review for Midsummer, you like with this guy's storytelling, you kind of know like A to B, you know where we're going. But in between, you're like, what the fuck, and that's what I really enjoyed about it, was all that what the fuck in the middle of it, because it is what the fuck, but you're like, fine, I'm here for this. Yes, girl in that big flower dress, sure, there's a bear, you notice stuff in the background, you're like, what, huh? I'm all for that. I'm all for Midsummer. Just the talk about insanity. This goes from 0 to like 100 real quick at some point. You're like, okay, this is what it is. People are going to this old Swedish village. Okay, huh? Wait, what? Okay. Oh, right. What? Oh, okay. I'm just like in the theater, like, oh my god, here we go. But yeah, that's why I definitely enjoyed Midsummer. So yeah, last on the horror list is Doctor Sleep. Doctor Sleep is sequel to The Shining. Granted, I haven't read the book for Doctor Sleep, and I really, in all honesty, didn't even know there was a sequel to The Shining. But as a movie, as a film, this was done very well. You have Ewan McGregor as Danny. Years later, all that stuff. He kind of like comes back to all the shit and like, meets someone who also has, The Shining. Ooh, bless me. And it's kind of like, here go, this is what's happening. And it's also directed by Mike Flanagan, and if you are a fan of The Haunting of Hill House, you'll definitely enjoy this. I remember watching just Mike Flanagan when he was doing his, like, low-budget indie stuff, and I'm really glad he's one of those few that, like, go from low budget and they're given a large chunk of money, and they're able to, like, do well instead of being like, wow, you probably wasted most of the, budget on Coke, but he didn't. He's able just to kind of do more and do better with his work. And the fact that they, in the movie, they go back, it's not really a spoiler, you see it in the trailer, they go back to the Overlook Hotel, and the fact that they got the old, like, Kubrick blueprints and they, like, recreated the entire thing, and it's just like, oh my god, and, like, of course, since, we're referencing back to Kubrick, of course, once they're in the Overlook Hotel, a lot of things get very Kubrick-looking, which makes sense. It's not like the Joker where it's like, wow, this is really trying hard. Like, you can tell Mike Flanagan is doing his own thing. And as a sequel, like, again, kind of like with El Camino, it's a very good continuation. It's like, you didn't really need this, but at the same time, it's good to know that this happened, it is a very interesting story, you're able to follow it, nothing seemed kind of, like, stupid, nothing seemed kind of like, alright, like, just a cash grab kind of thing. It also didn't do the sequel thing of what you like in the first film, let's do it in the second one 1,000 times, like, they knew pacing, they knew what they were doing. And my last category is POC, People of Color, and we have The Farewell, The Last Black Man in San Francisco, and Parasite. Now with The Farewell, it's a story about like an Asian American who, learns that her grandma has cancer, and everyone's kind of flying over to China to be like, hey, there's this wedding, hey grandma, just to, blah blah blah, disguising as the fact that they're all going to be with grandma one last time, thinking, because she has cancer, she's going to pass away. And so the story is the main character, Awkwafina, who plays, of course, an Asian American, because she is Asian American, and it's about her trying to, like, deal with why this is, like, an okay thing with the family, Like, everyone else is like, this is what we do, we don't tell anyone, we just kind of, like, let them live, all that stuff, and she's just, like, like a ball of emotions, like, why can't we tell her, like, blah blah blah. And it's very much this whole, like, well, you're American, so Americans go with their feelings, and not to compare it to Crazy Rich Asians, because there's not a lot of Asian American films out there, but it's very much that thing, like in Crazy Rich Asians, with Michelle Yeoh's character even said, she's like, yeah, she's like, you Americans, you all go by your feelings instead of what's right. And me, as an Asian American, I'm like, what's wrong with that, motherfucker? You know? What's wrong with going by my damn feelings, you know? In this movie, you get to see, like, her character, Aquafina's character, kind of go from, like, just being so not fish out of water, but so being like, why is this okay? Like, kind of upset, angry about it, and slowly understanding it and accepting it. But at the same time, she's still kind of like this. She's still not okay with it, but she's like she's getting it, kind of stuff. And even then, like, she makes sure she spends more time with grandma and all that stuff. And yeah, that movie, I made sure I watched it at home. I didn't cry until like the credits hit, and then I was like, oh, here we go. Here we go. You know, it's very much because, you know, then you find yourself thinking about your own grandparents, or really me, just my grandma, you know, like, you know, you just start thinking about your own life and all that stuff, and you're like, especially if you're like, if you're a child of immigrants, like this movie definitely is like, here we go. You know. Next is The Last Black Man in San Francisco. This movie is, like, so good. I don't think I could explain it very well. It's about, like, there's a guy and he has a friend. Wow, that helps. There's a guy has a friend, and we all know how, like, San Francisco and, like, Oakland, all that stuff have been, you know, with the gentrification and the housing market and all that shit. And so, this guy, you know, him and his friend, like, there was a house he grew up in San Francisco. Of course, he doesn't live there anymore, but him and his friend go there to, like, kind of spruce up the place, because they feel like the white couple that lives there aren't taking care of the house well enough, and they're always like, get the fuck out, what are you doing, you know? Like, they have to kind of, like, sneak to fix it, like, so weird. And the main guy believes, like, you know, his grandpa built that house, and so much transpires from that, you know? I don't want to give too much away, but so much transpires from it. Of course, you know, this movie has to do a lot, you know, with race and classism and socioeconomic, you know, things and all that stuff. It also, you know, is talking about friendship. It's also, you know, it's a snapshot of just how America is right now, kind of thing. It's shot beautifully. It's acted wonderfully. It's so good. Like I said, me trying to even give a simple synopsis isn't like the best, but I would definitely recommend this movie because I just the title alone. I'll watch this movie, you know, because I already know like what you're talking about with that title, but watching it, you're just like, oh shit, all right, you know, yeah. And the last movie on my list of best films of 2019 is Parasite. And oh man, I knew I was going to enjoy this movie because, you know, I love the director because of all the other work he's done. But man, I just didn't think I'd be like, oh shit, with this one. So Parasite simply is a film about, you know, there's a poor family and then there's a rich family. And then slowly but surely, the poor family is kind of trying to, like, take over the rich family's, you know, house. That's very simple. That's very, like, that's what it is. But how they get there and their hustle, like, bless their heart. You get to see how, you know, with these families, you know, yes, they're both Korean and whatever not, you know, but it's like, obviously, one's rich, one's poor. One lives in, like, this super minimalist kind of house that's, you know, we've got tons of bottled water and, you know, French door, you know, fucking fridges and shit like that, and a big ass tub. And the poor family, they live in a basement level. Their bathroom is like, you have to, like, climb up some steps to get on the toilet, and then you're, like, hunched over on the toilet, you know, like, the film opens with them being like, oh, the Wi-Fi is down, you know, it's like, oh, shit. And just the story of it, just, like, how the story is told, the perspective from the family and all that stuff, it's just, it's wonderful. It's amazing. I hope it wins all the awards that it's nominated for, because, you know, this whole movie, like, it's, you know, it's not just like a foreign language film. It is, but at the same time, it's like, foreign language aside, you can all relate to this, you know? You can all understand this, you know? And the whole film is in Korean. Like, yeah, there'll be some English here and there because there's, like, like a character where they're like teaching them English and stuff, but it's, you know, it's all in Korean. And I forgot to mention with the farewell is 99% in Mandarin, you know, and it's like, it's good to see a lot more like Asian films hitting the mainstream, and also the fact that like people are gonna have to read subtitles, you know, like even the director said, he's like, if you can get over that inch and a half of, you know, like you know, but like pretty much he was saying like, learn to read, bitch, and you'll discover like more films. Just fucking hell, Parasite, that's so good. Like, it's shot beautifully, the actors did amazingly, the sets, everything. It is like 7:15. Shut the fuck up. God, it's always some asshole revving whatever fucking engine. But anyway, yeah. So that's my list of best of, you know, films of 2019. Yeah, I'll be back with the worst of, which is, I'm looking at it, it's a way longer list. I'll probably be going off about that a lot more. But yeah, so that's best of 2019. Alright.